Okay, so what I'm working on is trying to troubleshoot a fueling issue that I have, and I believe it's related to what's called a vapor lock. And the symptom is basically on a warm engine, I can't seem to start, or it does start, but it kind of bogs on a warm engine. So I installed this this fuel gauge, and so there's a port, and I bought this off of Amazon, or the pieces off of Amazon, in order for it to work. 928 Motorsport, I believe, makes one, but they're currently out of stock. So I've made this by buying an adapter here, and then this is a fuel gauge, relatively inexpensive. If you're wondering what the threading is on this, it's off the car, it's a M12 by 1.5, and then the threading for typical fuel gauges are 1/8 NPT, whatever that means. So you need, basically this adapter or something that transfers from M12 to 1/8. The viewing angle isn't that great, but it's sufficient for me to figure out what's going on. So that's the viewing angle there. And so the setup is basically you jumper these wires. That's the fuel relay. You jumper those wires, and it'll turn on the pump. And I have a switch here in the back, power switch right here, and when I connect that basically turns on the fuel pump, and I'll have it pump for maybe like 15 seconds or so, and hopefully this will come out where you can see the pressure increase. So it's at about, I don't know, 40 psi or so. And it's supposed to, when I shut it off, it's supposed to hover around 1.5 bar, which is a little over 20 psi, and just stay there for about 20 minutes. However, see, it's going to drop to 20. And then just continue to drop. And there lies the problem. So a couple things. One is that I can smell fuel somewhere in the back passenger area. However, when I check the fuel pump, in this area, everything is dry, so nothing's leaking. I did replace the check valve a while ago, but it's new, so that's a common failure, the check valve. So nothing is leaking here. I also did another check where I pinched this fuel inlet, and it was still leaking, so it was not the check valve. At least that's my kind of rudimentary troubleshooting. So I think the leak is somewhere up front. The other thing I did notice was that there's some leakage. Last time I did this, there's some leakage underneath the car. So I'm hoping this will happen again. I'll be able to identify where it's coming from. Alright. Well, I smell gas around here too, so maybe it's from here. Alright, so we'll continue to troubleshoot. Okay, so I identified the leak. It's right here coming out of this area, so hopefully you can see that. So, and I'll do this down here. Look right there. as I turn on the fuel pump. Yeah, what do you think? I think it's normal. Jeez. Okay, so I'm more or less done here, and I'm about to start the engine. So what I had to do, well, the original problem was basically this. Can you see that? That clamp right there wasn't tight enough, okay? But I don't know, or I didn't know too much about this system, so I decided to take everything apart and then try to figure out what was going on. There was a couple other issues that were problematic, and so I fixed those. It's holding pressure. So the pressure, if you can see that, there's a gauge right down there, and it's been holding pressure for about, I don't know, 20-30 minutes. The tricky part about doing this type of thing is the installation of the fuel injectors. What I found worked the best was to install the fuel injectors onto the rail, tighten everything up, correction, leave some stuff loose, but button all this stuff down. That interface, which I showed a video of, is kind of key, or which I will show a video of, is kind of key. So that's, you have to do that kind of like on the bench. And then you can keep this this clamp loose. The other clamps I would tighten. And that's the other thing. Since it's rubber hoses, I don't know how tight to keep it. And so when I did a pressure check, there was other leaks. I fixed those leaks, and then basically went to each clamp to see if anything was leaking. So overall, I'm hoping this is sufficient. I was able to do this repair on the cheap. It only cost me approximately, I don't know, 20 bucks or so. Just getting new O-rings and whatnot. I actually got the rebuild kit, the fuel injector rebuild kit from Amazon. Anyways, I say that now, but if there's a problem with this, then I'll regret it. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and see if there's any leaks, and then hopefully I'll be able to drive it. Okay, so everything looked pretty good. There's some wetness right there. And it was, I don't know, a little bit rough, but that's because the airbox isn't connected, I'm assuming. And it hasn't been started for a long time. Let's see the pressure. Yeah, pressure's kind of holding. Let's see that. Okay, so I just installed this driver's side fuel rail, and how I did it, I don't think is necessarily the the correct way. So how I did it was, I first installed the fuel injectors and then the fuel rail, like so. And it was difficult because this receiver has to go over this O-ring right there, and it's pretty tight, so it's hard to do. So what I'm going to do is actually take this hose off right here, insert it, and then install it at this point. So I don't think I'll set up the video cam per se to show that, but I'll just maybe do it in steps and take pictures. But I believe that's the correct way. You have to kind of install, at least the way that I did it, you have to install the fuel injectors first, because that O-ring doesn't sit on the fuel injector without that cap, and I did it without the cap. And so you have to kind of, you know, gingerly insert it in so it doesn't fall out, and then lock it all down. So anyways, I think that's the correct way. It may be different with other cars, or other models, but that's how I'm doing it.